Welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on WakeUpCallDT.com, your one-stop sports shop, and on MixLR.com/WakeUpCallDT. We thank you for your patience a couple minutes here. Julian and I were having a fantastic conversation off the air that we now get to have on the air in just a few moments. I don't know how much we're going to share, but we'll share some of it. I'll tell you that much. So we will venture into that conversation in just a moment. But I do want to let everybody know we're still alive, so that's good. You know, we're still here. No worries, no fear. And, I know everybody looking at the election and it's undecided and what do we do? And oh my God. And what happened today? I woke up in my same bed with the same son, with my same dog, Lily, my girl, my little daughter. I got my awesome cereal because I'm a child, Cotton Candy Crunch. What's up? And I live my same life. I drink out of the same water bottle. That's also helpful. A refillable one, just so people know. So, yeah, we're going to be okay no matter what. And I did find out today, thanks to my good buddy Sonny Spira, who played for Syracuse basketball, that everybody's been putting up maps on how you can win stuff. And there's a map that says, before we start looking at a red-blue map for days, here's a map showing the legality of owning a kangaroo. Now, you can own a kangaroo in Texas, New Mexico, Nevada, Idaho, Washington, Illinois, Pennsylvania, Ohio, New Jersey, and Maine with a permit. But this is where it gets cool. You can own a kangaroo without a permit in Wisconsin, West Virginia, and South Carolina. So, just to let everybody know, in two states that are still not called yet, oh no, I'm sorry, South Carolina was. In one state that wasn't called yet, you can own a kangaroo without a permit. So shout out to my people in Wisconsin. If I ever decide to buy a kangaroo, I might do it there. Or I may just get my permit and travel a couple hours south to Pennsylvania and, get a kangaroo in Scranton and go to my stomping grounds, literally and figuratively. Shout out kangaroos. My old stomping grounds at Marywood University. So, with that being said, welcome to Wake Up Call. We're here this morning. We're having some fun, and I appreciate you being here inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. Cafe Kubal with 5 locations in 3501 James Street, 401 South Salina Street, 324 West Water Street, 208 North Townsend Street, as well as inside of Golisano's Children's Hospital. They are the home of the DT Special Pumpkin Spiced Chai. If you've never had it before, you can go out and try it today. If you've had it and you want it again and you're jonesing for it, they have their own flavors, which is fantastical, and you can go get it. So if you think, oh, Dan, I've had pumpkin chai somewhere else, it's not the same. I can tell you that because I've had chai in a bunch of different places, and I truly, truly appreciate all the flavors and all the work and everything that goes into what they do at Cafe Kubal, because my pumpkin spice chai is my number one pick at Cafe Kubal, and you always got to have a number one pick. You got to have a go-to. So that is my number one pick. You can get it at every location for mobile pickup, as well as just going there and ordering in and of itself. So go and get it today. I get mine with almond milk. You can get yours however you'd like it. With that being stated, here inside of the broadcast, we have hour 1 and 2 on a Wednesday, something that we are accustomed to in a positive way. So if somebody's looking for some, something familiar this morning, something to bring them back to life after staying up until 1:20 in the a.m. like I did, what's popping inside of MonPazPopcorn.com? We have the midweek Blitz with Julian Whigham, Syracuse Orange Football alum. We'll be talking about Syracuse's loss to Wake, their upcoming game against BC, and the team as a whole, and we'll make our picks for the week. And then in hour number 2, we'll have Mr. Mike Sofka of Hall of Fame FantasyFootball.com hanging out with us inside of not one of, but the Fantasy Football Power Hour, giving you advice on every Week 9 game, and that'll be coming up for you from 10 to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So, with all that being stated, my man Julian Whigham has waited patiently here on the broadcast to come into the room, so let's bring him in. Julian, how are we doing today?
I'm good. Doing well. Happy to be on. Thanks for having me.
What do you think about the fact that, A, you can own a kangaroo with or without a permit in the United States, And what are your thoughts on me wanting to go and get one now?
you know, as you brought that up, I was like, man, one day I hope to be rich enough that I have the freedom and time to just own a kangaroo. I think that's amazing. One day I just want to just be able to relax and just buy a kangaroo. And I'm with you, Dan. Like, I'm like, you know what? Like, imagine, like, just sitting there petting a kangaroo and watching it run in your backyard. You know what kind of life you have to sit there and have the ability
Michael Jackson's life. You got to have a Michael Jackson life.
Watch a kangaroo just hop around in your backyard, having a good time. Like, that's fantastic stuff. I mean, to have that kind of life would be, just undisputed. And I think that would be, so I'm with you. Like, if I had the opportunity ever to buy a kangaroo, that means I'm doing well. I have zero problems. And, I have the free, I'm with you, Dan. I'm down for buying a kangaroo.
And I think about it this way, now that I'm out there, healthy mind, healthy body, working on me, I don't have to hire a trainer. I can box my kangaroo in the morning before the show, which would be awesome.
See, and then that just makes things even, like, you wake up in the morning, you can rock this kangaroo, like he's going to keep working out because he's tired of getting rocked in the morning, so he's going to get better. You're going to, punch this guy until this kangaroo can't deal with it anymore, and then you're even healthier going forward. I think this is a win-win. Like, I don't understand. Like, I'm telling you, if you have the ability to actually get a kangaroo, like, and you're just like, you're doing life how you're supposed to, like, I don't see the downside of owning a kangaroo. Like what? It might knock over some, like, I mean, that happens with owning a cat or a dog, So, and you never hear about rabid kangaroos. So I support it. I'm there with you, Dan. I think I highly recommend you get a kangaroo. I'd like to come see it. I look forward to the pictures.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think at this point with the lady pool that I have met up here, I'd rather take my shot with the kangaroo at this point. So, not romantically, just if I'm going to bring somebody else into the house, I'm going to bring the kangaroo in, I'm going to give him his own spot, you know what I mean? And if I could get like a big kangaroo, right? Because I'm 5'8", I could hang in the pouch, you know what I mean? Like, if I got tired, if I got sleepy, that I could just be like, yo, my man, I just rocked you. Like if I beat you in this boxing match today, like, you got to carry me home. Like, that's how I look at it. Like, if I win today, then we're going to walk to Chick-fil-A, and then I'm gonna nap in your pouch on the way home. Is that cool?
Right.
Like, that's how I feel about it. I just want to have a kangaroo pouch for me someday. That's all I want. I just want a kangaroo pouch. What did Drake say? I can't say it all on the air, but Drake said he wanted a comfortable bed. So, pouch, that's the same.
I'm with you there. I don't, like I said, man, I don't see the downside. Like, I mean,
there is no downside.
I listen. I'm with it. I guess the only risk is, that sounds like a Florida man story waiting to happen.
Heck yeah.
Florida man loses kangaroo robs a store. Like, that would be, I could see that headline.
Yeah.
But, otherwise, man, I think, I'm with it. I think if you can get a kangaroo.
I gotta ask my man Gene Waldron. I gotta ask my man Gene, because he's watching and listening right now. Gene, I know you think I'm wilding out right now, because Gene he'll be like, you wilding. but Gene, do you think I should own a kangaroo, number one? Are you happy to know that you can get one with a permit in Pennsylvania, just a little ways away? And does it surprise you at all that Wisconsin, South Carolina, and Western Michigan allow you to have a kangaroo without a permit? So I want to know what Gene thinks this morning, because I love my man Gene. But, speaking here with Julian Whigham, Wiggs, this brings me back. We're going to get to Florida Man in a second. Syracuse lost to a team whose mascot was a kangaroo. Okay? So I want, I listen, people, I'm dope. I'll find my way back. But I always take that from when Dave Chappelle said that. He's like, you don't think I'm connected? He's like, but I'm dope. So, but to find a way to connect me wanting a kangaroo to Syracuse football, but it's there. And the reality of it all is, think about it. They lost to a kangaroo. If I had trained a kangaroo, we could have had a kangaroo to take down that kangaroo that was in the dome. Right? So even if they lost on the field, my kangaroo would have won against the emaciated kangaroo with a beer gut. But Syracuse lost to Akron. I consider it the worst loss that I've ever seen in my 30-plus years on this earth. Is Liberty worse than Akron? I don't see it, but I'm going to ask you the question. Is the loss to Liberty, who is now ranked in the nation's top 25 in the AP, mind you, is that worse than the loss to Akron?
I think it's up there. I'm not quite sure. I don't think the Liberty, because I think Liberty is a better football team, right? I think that Akron team.
Liberty was good last year, too.
Yeah, I think they're a better football team than that Akron Zips team was. I don't think, what year is that, 2008 or 7?
It was around the Greg Robinson era.
Yeah, I don't think Akron had a winning season that year. Like, they were one of those.
Man, are you trying to figure out if they had a winning season when Greg Robinson was coach? The answer is no.
No, I'm talking about Akron. I don't think they
I'll go back and I'll look for you.
I don't think they had a winning season that year. So they were just a bad football team in a much worse conference. So they were just like bad. Like, sometimes, like, especially like nowadays, there's so many athletes that, some teams can like have themselves a year. And, I think Liberty, as an independent, is having that moment right now. Like, they've managed to schedule themselves really well. And they're having a good year. I think they're, like you said, ranked at the moment. So, and I kind of had the feeling that Liberty would kind of end up being a better football team than everyone expected. But I still, like, despite where they end up in the ranking, I don't think they're going to end up being ranked by the end of the year. But yeah, I still think it's a bad loss. But yeah, I think that Akron loss still is a really low moment for Syracuse football. But to have lost to Liberty, I think, is a great moment as well, though, because I think Doug Marrone ended up being brought in 2 years later, which I think was almost the turnaround point for Syracuse football. And I think we're going to get to a point like that with Syracuse football in the coming year or two. I think probably 2 years, 2 years out from that. But, yeah, man, I think that Liberty loss was top two, and it might be two, because that was painful to watch. I think I had to walk away from that one.
Yeah, so I can tell you that it was 2008. You wonderful genius, you wonderful Florida man genius, and
wild to know that. I'm kind of mad I did.
But 2008, the Akron Zips, them Kangaroos, they won at Syracuse when Syracuse was in the Big East. They defeated them 42-28. This wasn't a little bit. This wasn't like a last second trick play, was it a forward pass, whatever. This was 42-28 that they won, and they did have a losing season that year. They were 5-7. They lost to Wisconsin. They defeated Syracuse. They lost to Ball State. Defeated Army. Lost to Cincinnati. Defeated Kent State. Lost to Bowling Green. Defeated Eastern Michigan, Toledo. Lost to Buffalo, Ohio, and Temple that season. And just to make it real, Buffalo, Ohio, as well as Bowling Green, all scored more points against Akron than Syracuse did that year.
Yeah.
Fans are like, why? Why are you telling us this today? Because we started with a kangaroo and we have to we got to button it up.
It's funny. Like, the season's already bad. Why tell us when we were worse? Does it make us feel better? It's one of those losses that, like, back in the day, Syracuse football was really bad. I think that was, I think at the time Syracuse was probably less talented, and it was just like, a crippling program. And I think at the moment now, Syracuse is just a bad program for a number of uncontrollable factors, but have exposed the program for things that it definitely needs to improve on. I think it's been neglecting for a long time. So in that aspect, these losses this year, it's been hard. Like, Syracuse football is hard to watch, and I'm excited for when the season's over, so I don't have to. But I value this year because it like you said, it showed where, and it's obvious. Like, fans know it, the program knows it, coaches know it, players know it. Yeah. Like, where this team is really lacking, and it also is going to speed up the developmental process of the freshmen. Like, Syracuse football just discovered Sean Tucker. Like, there's no reason he shouldn't have a 1,000-yard season for the next 3 years. I don't think he's going to be an NFL prospect. I'm bad with predicting these things, but I think he's on the shorter side. But I've been wrong. But I think he's someone who could have 3,000-yard seasons back to back if he gets his touches. And to discover these young guys and help them develop and get them the playing time now, their confidence level should be sky high come sophomore year, when they've got time to actually look at the film and then get reps that don't determine whether or not the team wins or loses. So, I know, like, from personal experience and watching guys, like, the biggest growth periods between your freshman and your sophomore year, because you have experience and your confidence all of a sudden just like skyrockets because you know what you're dealing with now. And, Coach Bears isn't going anywhere, so they know the system, they know what they're doing. So, if anything, while being terrible hasn't been fun to watch, there's a benefit and some silver lining on the other side. I'm doing my best not to look for the dark cloud above it.
Yeah, speaking here with Julian Whigham in the midweek Blitz, we could bring this to you every single Wednesday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern Time to speak on the state of Syracuse football and to obviously go outside of that with other conversations like owning a kangaroo and where you can have a permit. And thank you to Sonny Spira for helping to give me the idea to talk about it on this morning's show, because he put up a post about where you can and cannot have a kangaroo, which kind of makes me want to have a kangaroo where I'm not allowed to. You know what I mean? Like, when they tell you can't, that makes me want to have it there more. It makes me want to, like, go to Kansas and, be sitting outside. My kangaroo's got sunglasses on. We're both having a Miami Vice drink, and I'm like, what up? What you gonna do about it? Because, like, if you try to take my kangaroo, like, I already trained him. Like, we've been boxing for weeks. So if you try to take, I'm going to be like, I'll see somebody coming up and I'll go, you don't want to do that, man. You don't want to do it today. Not today. And that kangaroo is up there, and that kangaroo gets in that boxing stance. And then after, 3-4 people try to, like, make a citizen's arrest, my kangaroo's still standing. And then the kangaroo comes over to me and obviously can't speak English, but it gives me that face and it goes, shh. And what I know about that is he's like, man, these people are crazy. They thought I was going to lose this game. Like, they know we've been training. They know you got me in the backyard working for my Wheaties every day. That's right. You know what I mean? Like, if he wants to eat in the morning, he's got to take me down in one of the rounds. Like, I'm ready. So after all this backstory's been done, I challenge anybody to try and take down my kangaroo, because it's going to be a tough day for you. But I'm going to watch, and all I'm going to ask is, when you lose to the kangaroo, can somebody refill our Miami Vices, because we're still thirsty and it's still nice outside. So I don't know where I'm going with today's show, Julian, but I love it. So in that sense, you said Dino's not going anywhere, because the notion right now, from some of the comments of John Wildhack, he said he's not going to judge him on just this year, and there's this notion that he'll still be here in 2021. Agree, and I say the notion because whether there's a quote that he says yes, or there's a quote that says maybe, or there's a quote that says no, or there's a quote that says I don't know, and I know that when it comes to keeping a coach or firing a coach, rarely do we feel that there's 100% truth that's given to the media and the public. So how much do you believe John Wildhack in keeping Dino Babers for 2021, and do you think it's the right move?
Yeah. I think I believe him. They just signed him to a massive contract. I think it was like last season. So I'm sure that was at least 3 years. They're going to try to and Syracuse is in a school that has a bunch of public funding, so they're going to want some value out of their dollars. So you got to consider the financial aspect of that. And then the other side of it is, this year was a total wash. Like it's hard to, how much can you blame a coach? And that's the other thing is we all if you really we looked at the factors coming in the preseason. Like, we knew this team was going to, it was likely they would struggle. Like, they didn't have any conditioning program. If you're running an offense that's predicated on tempo with unconditioned players, chances are tempo is going to work against you. They had 2 new coordinators, offensive and defensive. Game planning has been an issue that it's hard to create mismatches because you've got injured players, and then you're trying to introduce and bring and install new plays on both sides of the ball with young players that don't know what they're doing. It set itself up this year to be, a bad season. And then obviously not having, an off season because at least of the injuries, and we're seeing that. So, across, we kind of knew Syracuse was going to struggle this year. So it's hard for me to blame Coach Babers for 2020, and it makes sense to bring him back for 2021. Because then you've got, there's no excuses, right? You're seeing him with his players, his recruits. He'll also have had the first college football free agency ever, where guys can just leave and go, freely to another college, another school. So he'll have had his first free agency to plug in gaps where, there's injury or guys are leaving or whatever other reason. And also have had an off season to have everything in. His coordinators are being everything that he's chosen to do and want to get this program back on track will be in place. New dome, everything. So it makes sense to keep him for 2021 because you're giving him a real opportunity. And then you see what he does. Does he go 7-5, or does he go 8-4, or is it another 3-9 season and a 4-8? That's when you're starting to think, okay, what are we doing here? And that's when you start to get into your evaluations and you have those uncomfortable conversations. But I'm all for it. I support him. In 2021, man. It's this season, while it's definitely had its ills, and Syracuse football is hard to watch. I think that on the outskirts there was a lot of good things happening. I think that the new dome or the renovations to the dome should aid recruiting. I think they're doing some things internally to help with recruiting, and my hope is that these things lead, especially with the free agency period coming up with athletes. I really think they got to make a splash with that. And to me, I don't know. Maybe that's just me being aspirational. Maybe it's me, the alumni part of me thinking, they should be able to do this and that and the third. But I'm looking at Syracuse. I'm like, man, this should be a place that they can really, recruit, especially at receiver. I think quarterback is a position they should be able to take advantage of. But we'll see what happens. But I give them the year. I say it's you definitely give them 2021, and then depending on the outlook of that, then you start to evaluate where you go from there. Because looking at their upcoming opponent, Boston College, BC's done a great job of their transition from one coach to the next. They just helped. Obviously Clemson lost their quarterback in the game, but Syracuse had been doing the same thing to Clemson when they lost their quarterback, and Boston hung in that game. They had him on the ropes almost the entire game until Clemson found a way back. But that program down in BC has been doing a great job for the last, I'll say, 8 years between the dynasty and the new guy. And that's something I think Syracuse should aspire to, and look and see, what we should be able to do the same thing here. Frankly, I don't think they're doing that right now. But my hope is with the way that this season has looked, and the way that Syracuse sees some of his rivals look, in comparison, should be motivation enough for those inside of the program to try to turn it around and do something different.
Speaking here with Julian Whigham inside of our segment, the Midweek Blitz, which comes to you every midweek on Wednesdays from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern Time, right here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios. Julian, you said, listen, this year kind of knew Syracuse was going to have issues. You know, they really had two guys opt-outs that had given ample minutes. You know, Cooper Dawson on the D-line, nobody knows what to expect there. But losing Abdul Adams and Jarvion Howard, yeah, it affects you, but Syracuse has also not really run the ball under Dino consistently. So, you know, you take that away and say, okay, what did they really lose with opt-outs? Not much. And then, you know, you lose your starting quarterback at Tommy DeVito, but he was struggling. And, you know, outside of that, you lose Cisco, which is huge, but credit to the Rob Hannas and Jihad Carters and, you know, and the entire crew back there that have been able to create opportunity, Garrett Williams and whatnot, to create opportunities and to take care of business. So, you know, I guess to play on the other side of your conversation, everybody went through Corona, not just Syracuse. So it's, you know, if Syracuse went through Corona and there was this like rampant virus that went through and it's like, oh my God, Syracuse is affected, but nobody else is, then I think we could sit here and say, you know, poor Syracuse. But everybody's gone through Corona. We saw Trevor Lawrence out, and their backup freshman quarterback comes in and plays a really good BC team and finds a way to come back and win. So Coronas happen to everybody. Injuries happen to everybody. I think I love the positive side of your angle this morning, because I think it's hard to hear some positives when it comes to Syracuse football, especially, you know, in years like this where the team is 1-6 and they still have to play BC, NC State, you know, good teams, Louisville and Notre Dame on the road. When we look at all of this, I hear what you're saying in the sense of, listen, you know, this has been an off year, you know, with Corona and all that, but we're all going through it. Every team in America, every conference in America is going through Corona and Corona protocol. So I wouldn't give that as a crutch to Syracuse, because they're not the only ones going through it. And at the same time, they lost a couple guys. So how do you see it in that respect? You know, you say, okay, keep Dino in 2021, but I can't blame this season on Corona, because Clemson still looks like Clemson. Alabama still looks like Alabama. You know, Lane Kiffin's at Ole Miss, and even though the record doesn't show it, he's pushing everybody. Mike Leach went and beat LSU with Mississippi State in his first week. The friggin' Big Ten looks fantastic, and they've only played a couple weeks. So I just don't see how Corona can wash this season for Syracuse if we're still seeing the Ohio States and the Clemsons and the Alabamas look pretty normal at this point.
Yeah, so that's an excellent point. Like, that's 100% true. You know, the only counter that is 2 points. And this is that kind of like crystallizes my point. You know, one, Syracuse isn't Alabama. They aren't Clemson. They don't have the same talent level. So when you come in and you have the injuries that Syracuse has had, and you lack a how would you call this? Your summer training program and a spring training program, and you're a developmental institution like Syracuse. Like when Syracuse comes in, they rely on development. They're not going to bring in 5 stars. They're going to come in talented. They're developing guys. Guys are, you know, changing their body and developing skills as they go through the program. That's just Syracuse. That's just, you know, and it's, I would say, a good portion of most institutions outside of Ohio State, Clemson, Texas, you know, the blue chip places. And when you're a place like that, when you're relying on development, you're not going to, and you lose all that, and you don't have your spring, you don't have your summer, and you lose all those things, obviously that's going to make it difficult. why I say this year has exposed Syracuse for its flaws. Meaning, Syracuse was going to be a bad football team this year either way, because their offensive line was still terrible, right? I mean, I don't think they lost anybody on that side of the ball. When it came to their running backs, I don't think that the guys that opted out, like, to be completely frank, I honestly don't think they. I don't want to do that. I'm not going to say. You know what? This is how I'll phrase this. I'm not going to say. And it's not my place to say whether or not they left for true health reasons or what. This is me, the football player, at this point. Like, this is just me being a jerk. But, from my own experiences, like, guys who typically opt out for, reasons like that, it has nothing to do with whatever the reason was for, like, leaving. Like, I think something internally, from what I've gathered from the guys, is that it had nothing to do with Corona. Like, that was their own thing. They just used it. But I'm not saying it, but I am. But I don't think their run game was going to be excellent either way. I think we still would have seen Sean Tucker at some point, and he has shines, to lanes I did not expect. But see, we knew Syracuse wasn't going to be good. They have their issues in certain areas, like the offensive line. The run game probably would have struggled this year. Their passing game probably would have struggled this year. They were introducing new receivers this year. But what the problem is, things got worse because they did not have an offseason. They did not have a conditioning program. So it's wherever they could have been, which I think were games that they should have won, like, say, Liberty, or I think some of those early games this year, I think it was UNC and whatnot. Like, those were swing games that could have gone to Syracuse. So a team that may have gone 4-8 or 5-7 this year is going 1-9, 2-8 kind of season, or 2-9 kind of year. So it's you're and that percentage change is large. That's what, almost 60%, 70%. In terms of what you could have done this year. So it's you're right. Where everybody else dealt with Corona, and everybody else probably took a step back. But the step back that Syracuse took was much larger than everybody else because of all the issues that had been hidden and has now been uncovered by the coronavirus. So that's where I say, things have hurt this year. They're not as good as they could have been because they don't have, and they weren't going to be great. They were going to be a 45%, 50% win team. They weren't going to be great, but they've taken a step back. And you've got to look at the program. If you're someone inside of it, you've got to say, okay, well, why did we take this step back rather than everybody else? Boston College, I think it's a team that Syracuse should compare themselves to. Wake Forest, I think it's a team that Syracuse should compare themselves to. Duke, all these teams, they're playing pretty good football. Like, they're not terrible. The Duke struggled early, but they're playing pretty good football, and they're still competitive in the ACC, where something like this happens, and Syracuse just falls off the map entirely. Like, why is that happening? That's my point. You're seeing there's things inside the program that shouldn't, just knock this team out. Like, and when you get into a strenuous or an unpredictable situation that really stretches you, I think that there really should be an evaluation of why are we like this? To quote my sister, why are you like this? Because there's other this is not happening to other programs, not to this extent. And I think it's on the guys inside of that locker room, coaches, players, administration, to figure out what that is and fix it as soon as possible. And with this offseason coming up, you're going to have the opportunity with free agents to essentially, I'm not going to say buy, but essentially bring in players to plug in gaps. And if you're Syracuse, you should have a bunch of starting opportunities. So I don't think there's a non-incentives for guys to come to Syracuse. And then on the opposite side of that, you got to figure out what you're doing with this offense, what you're doing with this defense, because we're seeing, defense getting exposed, like, schematically. run defense, getting exposed. Are you doing things to recruit the right players? Or is your personnel? I'm long-winded today, but is your personnel fitting what you're trying to do? If you don't have the right size lineman, is Syracuse's lineman situation, are the recruits actually fitting the bill? Are you bringing in some 6'2", 190-pound kid to play D tackle? Well, he's not probably going to be a good nose tackle for you in a 3-3-5. And that's where I challenge journalists and the media to look at these things and ask these questions, because it's pretty easy, I think, to hold a college football team accountable. Like, if they say we're going to run this scheme, well, are you bringing in the players that fit it? And if not, why are you running it? And then you can actually challenge it, or rather than like sit on the sidelines and complain about penalties or something, you know. But I think that this year has affected Syracuse in ways that it hasn't affected other programs, because Syracuse has problems that other programs don't. And I think that the thing that we've learned this year is that Syracuse needs to address them so that they can be competitive in the Power 5, because obviously they aren't, losing to teams like Liberty. So, that's a great point, Dan, but it shows to a much larger issue for Syracuse and their problems going forward.
Yeah, and that's, and the reality is, like you said, you come into this season saying, well, Syracuse is going to struggle when it comes to their passing game. They're going to struggle on the offensive line. They're going to struggle, potentially in their running game and this, that, and the other. Here's the reality. If we're talking about a 1-6 team right now, that could very, very potentially be 1-10 at the end of the season, because they struggle at Louisville, because Notre Dame is their last game of the season, and then they have to play Notre Dame at all, because Boston College just pushed Clemson to the brink, and Boston College has been good this year under new head coach, because NC State is no slouch, and people look at NC State and, that's a win for Syracuse. And now I think fans are starting to shift after 7-8 years going, we can't count on this NC State game. So, and mind you, folks, NC State, to me, is better than Wake Forest, and you saw what Wake Forest did. So the reality of it all is, take Corona out. We had questions on what was going to happen in the running game. We had, if they were going to commit to the run at all, would be my question. I think there's talent there, but will they commit to it? What's going to happen with the offensive line? Do you have guys in set spots? Are there guys that know where they're going to be? Or are you going to do what you did last year and 2 weeks before the season not know where people are going to be? And Aaron Service, bless his heart, has played 3 of the 5 positions on the O-line. So that's a question. The quarterback's a question. Consistency is a question. Completion percentage is a question. You're excited about Cisco going into the season. You're excited about Trill. You're excited about the DBs. You're excited about a new defensive coordinator after you had a coordinator that gave up over 30 points a game in multiple seasons. Gave up over 50 points a game in a 3-game span in Dino Baber's second season. So there's all these questions before Corona. And I agree with you with development, but that's on a coach. A coach will know how to develop their players. A coach will handle adversity. And it sounds like if this team is trailing toward 1-10 or 2-9, it sounds like without Corona, we're talking about a 4-8, 5-7 team. That's not good enough. And not in year 5. It's not good enough. So the reality of it all is, if you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them. And I think with Clemson, they said there's Corona, we're going undefeated. Alabama, there's Corona, we're going undefeated. Temple, BC, Navy. Navy got better. Navy's been down for a little bit. Navy got better. East Carolina's getting better. Tulsa's getting damn better. So I look at the Tulane's getting better. UCF is navigating, but they're still rocking. Houston's getting better after losing De'Ara King to Miami. So where I sit here today is, if you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them. if you were going to be 4-8 or 5-7, well, then I guess it makes sense that you're 1-10 or 2-9. But if you want to be 8 wins or 7 wins, then maybe it dips a little bit to 5 or to 4. But it seems like Syracuse is going toward 4-8 and 5-7 based on what you think and what I think, and that's not good enough. And at the same time, yes, there are injuries. Yes, there are issues. There's things that happen, but take Corona out of the equation. Guys quit the team, guys get academically ineligible, and guys get hurt every year. When you recruit and you build depth and you know the character and you know the talent, your third-string guy is going to step it. Sean Tucker's a fourth, fifth-string guy. Cooper Lutz is behind him. So I commend Dino for that. But that has to be across the board. If you know your offensive line is an issue last year, then you have to assess that now, not next year. You have to assess it now. You know, your linebacker core has consistently been rotating due to eligibility coming up, and Dino's had talent at linebacker for the last, 4 years, 5 years? Like the whole time he's been there, he's found guys to come in. So I would say that some of this falls on coaching, some of this falls on recruiting, because these problems were there before Corona. And again, it sounds like we're talking about a team that was going to fight tooth and nail to get to 4-8 or 5-7 without Corona. And to me, that is not good enough.
Yeah, I agree. I'm right there with you. I think that this team already was projected to have another down year. We knew that the offensive line was going to be an issue, and in football, if you have a struggling offensive line, you're going to have a struggling offense. It's hard to pass the ball. It's hard to obviously throw the ball. It's hard to run the ball. And we've seen that, and that's what makes it difficult. Like coming into this year, like I was really hesitating on just talking about Syracuse football, because I'm like, they're gonna have the same problems, and it's gonna get repetitive, and we're all gonna know the issue, and there's nothing to solve. We see the issue, we see the problem, and it's on. That's the frustrating part. You kind of you see it, like what the issue is. We knew what it was last year. And having worked in media, you kind of get a sense for trends, and you can see where things are going to go wrong. And it wasn't surprising to see Syracuse have the year that they had. I think the injuries and everything else has contributed to things making things worse. We're seeing blown coverages that we hadn't seen all year. That's young guys coming in playing because of injuries. We're seeing. Early on in the season, we saw drops and, just focus plays on receivers that, shouldn't be happening. But they were coming from young players. It's like, okay, these guys are not ready. They didn't have an off season. They weren't getting reps, throughout there. And, and you can stats where you can kind of see it, where, this team could have been better and put themselves in position to win more games, but they're not. So, looking at this year, it's one of those things. It's just one of those deals where, if you're 5-7, I've always thought that the standard for Syracuse football should be about 7-8 wins per year, right? And then my thing, if I was AD, would be, okay, how many years are we trending below 7.5 versus how many years are we trending above 7.5? And if you have 2 more years below 7.5, then you start thinking about a new coach versus above. And for Coach Babers, obviously he's had the rough patch with, the virus this year. But, you're right. And what is this, year 5? You're starting to ask some questions that I think should be answered. And once 2021 comes around, again, that's why I repeat this, I think it's good for the program. You've got, really less excuses. You've got the free agency period. You can go in and literally bring in offensive line talent, developed, guys who can come in and play right away. They don't have to, you don't have to get them to gain weight. You have to teach them a zone blocking scheme. You don't have to teach or whatever blocking scheme you use. I think Syracuse is zone. but you don't have to teach them the scheme. They understand the technique. They're coming in ready to play. So with the free agency period coming up, I really look forward to seeing Syracuse make a splash, and then making some adjustments from there. But yeah, this season tough to watch, and it's clear what Syracuse needs to get addressed. And I think that it would behoove Coach Babers and his staff to address them as soon as possible, to make sure that they're okay going into 2021 and beyond.
Yeah, and it is. It's going to be some. I mean, and the thing is, Julian, if we can see it, I said this going into the Wake Forest game in the analysis. I said that Wake was going to run. I said that they had two backs that are their main carriers, and that they had two other guys if they needed them. I said that they were going to condense the clock, run the ball, trust the run, shorten the game, come out with a win. Like, that was their plan. If I saw it, Dino had to see it, I would imagine. And I think that where my frustration lies right now is I'm watching a team where I can literally tell you, if you know how to run the ball and you watch all Duke had to do was watch film of the end of the North Carolina game. And then Liberty had to watch Duke. And then Clemson had to watch Duke and Liberty. And then Wake Forest had to watch Duke and Liberty and on and on and on. And say, okay, this is what you do. It seems, and to me, where I think people get frustrated is, like you said, we're seeing the same mistakes. And when you make the same mistake over and over again, it's the definition of insanity. When you just keep going through the motions, you need to find other ways to make it work. It's kind of like if the coaching staff sees the hole in the ship, are they just going to look at it until the ship sinks, or are they going to try to plug it? And I don't care if you plug it with paper towel. I don't care if you plug it with a stick. I don't care if you plug it with whatever. I don't care, I don't care what you plug it with. But looking at the hole saying, wow, there's a hole there. We've accepted that we got some issues on the run defense. There's a run defense problem. Yeah, okay, well, there's a problem, but where's the solution? Whenever I've been in a relationship and, you realize there's a problem, I say to her, well, what's our solution? If she just sits there and shrugs her shoulders, we're not going to stay together that long. But if she says, all right, babe, you know what? How about I do this? How about you do that? How about we work on this together? What can we do? And I think that that's the part where I'm really sitting here going, what's being done? Because I'm seeing the hole in the ship, and I'm seeing a bunch of people looking at it, but I'm not seeing anybody trying to stop it.
Yeah. I mean, I think the issue. And this is just film review. Like last week, Syracuse they put more guys in the box. I think if we were to count like an average between the first, I'd say 4 or 5 weeks of the season versus the last couple, I think you see an average of 4 to 5 early on, and now we're starting to see somewhere between 5 and 7. They're adding guys to the box, but like you said, I mean, if you're got a sinking ship and you're trying to plug it with paper towels, I mean, what's that going to do? And I hate to call Syracuse's linebacker and secondary paper towels, but I mean that's kind of what it's been. It's just been a fix that hasn't worked, simply because guys aren't on you're in a 3-3-5 defense. You naturally have more safeties in the box, but if your safeties are inexperienced and have never played a down of college football before, chances are they're not going to be, covering their run responsibility the way that they should, which I actually think is harder than covering the pass. Like when you have to read a back and where he's going, or read a tackle or a guard and where he's going and know where your gap moves to. Like when a gap moves, like that concept to me when I was a corner coming off of the edge was wild to me. Like where I never understood how like a B gap moved. I'm like, I thought it's just right there. I thought that's the gap. No, well, it moves. Like, it's like, all right, and then you just ask the defense, like, where am I going to? It's like, okay, got you. But like, these things are, it's difficult. And when you got guys who come in and they're young and don't understand what they're doing, like game planning it and trying to do something, it doesn't really mean much if the fix, doesn't really have much integrity. So, yeah, and that's where I say that this 3-5 is going to be stressed going forward. And I think it's important that recruiting and who is taking place inside. That's the thing. We talked about like not having the install with 3-5 defense, the defense this year. Guys, Coach Favors actively said, we got young guys in there, but we're still getting play from our veterans. He's talking about his defensive line. He's talking about his offensive line, who aren't getting better. They're not improving inside of the defense that we're running. They're not improving inside of the offense that we're running. And, I get what he's saying. I mean, I remember Coach Bullitt saying the same thing about our defense back in the day. And what that means is you've got guys who have been in the scheme and should be able to pick it up, because they're not doing as much thinking in terms of the technique. They just have to learn what to do, and that's not happening. They're not improving on where they're supposed to, what gap they're supposed to take down. They're not improving on what, whatever blitz they're supposed to learn and get better. Like that's where they're struggling still. From what it sounds like, coach speak is coach speak, but this season itself has been, like I said, hard to watch. And when you're coming in with a new scheme and guys who rotating in and out with injuries and everything else, I think that this made for a difficult year. And I hope that what this becomes is a program that addresses them and gets back to that 7-8 win territory that BC and the Wakes and the North Carolinas of the world have been able to maintain all these years. Because at this point, it's like, all right, there's ACC and then Syracuse, and it shouldn't be that way.
No, it shouldn't by any stretch of the imagination. You don't want to be in a conference and be that team that's expected to lose. And that, and that's the great unfortunate is that, Syracuse, was that program that was very much at the upper echelon. And, it's funny when Paul Pasqualoni got fired, 6-6 wasn't good enough. And now Syracuse would love to be 6-6. So, I mean, it's like you see the juxtaposition of it and the irony that Paul Pasqualoni went 6-6 2 years in a row, and it was like, Paul, it's time to go. And, it's insane. And to look at his coaching tree that had Steve Addazio on it, to look where Paul went after Syracuse. He went to UConn for a few years. He went and worked with Steve in a role flip when he was an assistant at BC. He went to the Texans, the Dolphins, the Cowboys. So, and now he's retired, officially retired. So, my shout out to Paul Pasqualoni, one of my favorite coaches in Syracuse history. So, the reality of it all is they need to get better. They need to move forward. They got a shot against BC. BC is tough as nails. BC has pushed Clemson in the past with Steve Addazio. This year they tried to take advantage of, I don't want to say they tried to take advantage. BC was going to play up no matter what, but not having Trevor Lawrence there, I'm sure was obviously the focus of a lot of people from the outside looking in. BC was just playing what was in front of them. What are your thoughts on BC, knowing that they pushed Clemson, granted without Trevor Lawrence? What are your thoughts on BC coming into the Dome?
Yeah, so I'm not going to put too much stock in them playing Clemson really close. I mean, it was good to see, and I think it is a little bit of a testament to where this program is headed. But I'm not going to put too much stock in it. One, Clemson lost a quarterback, and B2, pick one, Julian, B or two. B2.
That's that Florida man getting there in you.
Yeah, it's working its way up. It's like, oh my goodness. Went to the second point.
Did you have bath salts today before the show? Are you trying some people today? Are you tasting? What are you doing?
if you see me foaming at the mouth, you'll know, man, that Florida man finally got it.
I see you foaming at the mouth. It's going to be like most people watching these election results. I don't know if I'm going to be able to tell that you got an issue going on.
Yeah. This year, man, you never know. It could be bath salts. It could be election results. You never know. It's wild out here right now. I completely forgot what I was talking about.
Talking about BC and not putting too much stock in the fact that they played Clemson without Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah. So with the Clemson deal, yes, they played them close. It might have been a testament to where they're going as a program. Obviously the quarterback was out. And they also, everyone plays up to Clemson. Everyone gives them their best game. We saw it with Syracuse, the week before, right? But I like what they've been doing this season. Like they're balanced. We had seen them as a team that they run the football 40, 50,000 times a game, and it's worked for them. And the change that I've seen in BC is a little bit more of a passing game in terms of just more complex concepts, giving them some flexibility on the offensive side of the ball, and I think it's worked well for them. I think that that was what hindered BC in the past. Was they were such a run-focused team that when they passed the ball, they really only had 2 or 3 passing concepts off of play action, and they were all deep balls. And sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. Versus this year, we're seeing more concepts over the middle, integrating the tight ends, working the outside, creating mismatches with linebackers and safeties, countering different coverage concepts, evolution of football, just layering their offense a bit more outside of the run game. I think that's worked well for them as a football team and as an offense. So they've developed, and I think they're a good team. Typically, Syracuse, BC. I think it's a rivalry game. I'm not entirely sure. I've actually never played Boston. I think we played them every single year, and my injury-prone self never made it to the end of the season. So I've actually never played Boston College to know what that feeling is like. But BC is.
Wait. You want to play this week? You want to come up here and play?
Look, it pains me to say, but I think the corners at Syracuse right now, they're actually, I think, the best.
They're fantastic. I'm asking. I didn't say what position, Julian. I just asked if you wanted to come up and play. That's it.
Outside of, I think I'm good. The sad part is I probably could come in right now and play a little bit better receiver than whatever they're going to put out there this week. But I didn't say that. But I'm concerned about what they're going to throw out this year. Boston College is a good team. I expect them to win the game. But BC and what they've done this year and what they've done with their offense has been that's what the kind of growth you want to see with a new coach. Like, that's what you're looking for, and they've been able to accomplish that. So as a program, man, BC has become a player in the ACC, and I think that's something Syracuse should see and do their best to mimic going forward.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Pittsburgh came in at the same time that Syracuse did into the ACC, and when you take a look at Pittsburgh and what Pittsburgh's been able to do, they look like they've been in the ACC a heck of a lot longer than Syracuse, and they look like they've gotten pretty well acclimated into it, which is definitely interesting. Julie and I are going to take a quick step aside. When we come back, we will be giving our picks for this week, and then we're going to jump into fantasy football with Mike Sofka in just a few moments after that, right here where sports meets life on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora.
Avicoli's Restaurant, located right at the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road, is proud to be your local neighbor, growing with you for over 20 years. We're open 7 days a week for lunch, dinner, and drinks. For takeout, delivery, or catering, call us at 315-622-5100. When you order online and use our promo code ABS10, You will save 10% on your online purchase at myavocoles.com. Make sure to join us monthly for our live on-site broadcasts centered around Liverpool athletics. Avocoles, your local, trusted neighbor right at the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road.
Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying, in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
Trapper's Pizza Pub, located on 5950 Butternut Drive in East Syracuse. Right off of Bridge Street is your local community supporter right around the corner. Join us on site at Trapper's Pizza Pub for our live monthly broadcast supporting Central New York student athletes and their sports programs. Call 315-438-4444 for more information. And find us on Facebook and Instagram at Trapper's Pizza Pub. Trapper's Pizza Pub, your local community supporter right around the corner.
Cafe Cabal Mobile Cafe brings the cafe experience to you. We'll roll out to your neighborhood or office, ready to serve our locally crafted espresso bar to our loyal patrons. Inquire at cafecabal.com. Cafe Cabal, coffee for the soul.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, located on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, is home to over 40 flavors with more than 200 flavors in their total wheelhouse. Sky's the limit for this sweet and savory Central New York company. Keep it local at your parties, fundraisers, wedding showers, baby showers, and more by calling 315-450-MA-PA. That's 315-450-6272 for popcorn bars with custom flavors and colors at your upcoming event. Make sure to visit them on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. And for more information, go to maandpazsnacks.com. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you? The Millhouse Market, located on 3790 New York 13 in Pulaski, New York, is worth the drive every time. Make sure you make your way out to the Millhouse Market and show them some love today. A fantastic local piece of everything great that we have here in New York State. The Millhouse Market has a downloadable app on the Apple app and Google Play Store. You can download that and have every sandwich, pizza, homemade bread, desserts, rice bowls, quinoa bowls, salads, and more at your fingertips, along with contactless pay right there on the app. And you can drive up to the window, grab your food, and go without even having to leave your car. It's easy, it's simple, it's safe, and the food is absolutely, positively incredible. Millhouse Market, I think I know my favorite, and every time I go back there, I end up finding a new one. So thank you, Millhouse Market, for making the toughest decision for lunch for me, not being where do I go, but what do I get at the Millhouse Market. 3790 New York, 13 in Pulaski, New York. Worth the drive every time. With that being stated, my man Julian and I are here inside of the midweek Blitz, and Julian and I are wrapping up before we jump into hour number 2 with Mike Sofka inside of the Fantasy Football Power Hour, proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub inside of MonPosPopcorn.com's What's Poppin'. We got to make our picks. So, with that being stated, Julian and I are here inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios, ready to do that for you in college football. Hard to believe it, thankful to know it, that we have gotten into double-digit weeks inside of college football, and that is week 10 officially. I'm going to pick a few games. Julian, if I skip one and you got one on your mind, let me know. I do want to let the people know that Wednesday football is back, and that's because the Mac Attack is back. Eastern Michigan, Kent State. Western Michigan, Akron. Shout out to my guy, Tim Lester. Buffalo, Northern Illinois. Shout out to the future home of Mike Washington Jr. in Buffalo. Ohio, Central Michigan. Ball State, Miami of Ohio. And Bowling Green, the old stomping grounds of Dino Babers. And Wake Forest head coach Dave Clawson at Toledo. The Maction is back. It's happening tonight. It officially gets unveiled. So as you're sitting here waiting for poll results to come in, driving yourself crazy, spinning around in circles, or foaming at the mouth if you're Julian, you can also be watching Mac football tonight, all freaking night long. So, ESPN Plus, ESPN3, ESPN, ESPN2, CBS Sports Network, and ESPN University have your Maction back here, and I am ecstatic for some Wednesday night. Take me anywhere, but take me anywhere, but having to watch those results and watch some football. So before we go to the picks, Julian, how excited are you that we have something else to focus on besides the election, number one, and number two, that the Mac Attack is back?
Yeah, so Mac football is it's always been interesting. Like I've always enjoyed it, like in passing, as a football fan, because this is like disrespectful, but I mean it in like a very respectful and honorable way. It feels like watching high school football, but it feels like a much more pure game. I think the talent is much more even across the board, so you get more competitive football games. I think coaches at that level are at their best because they're trying to create the best game so that they can move up. So they're competitive. They're putting, that's where you see some of the most innovative football strategy in college football. So I enjoy it. I'm looking forward. So I'll probably end up catching one or two games tonight just in passing. I don't know, who I'll end up watching. I'm not a super Mac fan, but when I do watch it, it's enjoyable football. So yeah, I'll probably end up watching some tonight. Like you said, to get away from the BS of American politics. But I'm looking forward to it, man. I think there's going to be good football. It's always competitive, and I'm sure the games are going to be enjoyable to watch. Yeah,
I'm definitely excited to see some action back on the old telly, as they call it. So let's get into our picks for the week. Julian, let's hop right into it, and I'm going to circle a couple games here. I picked in my Wake Up Call spinoff show, DT and Murphy Make the Picks. Brendan thought I was nuts because they were a 20-some-odd point underdog. But I picked Michigan State to take down Michigan on the road, and they did. Michigan is now playing Indiana. Michigan's still in the nation's top 25 because the pollers won't let it not happen. So they put them in there for 3 weeks that they weren't even playing football. We saw that Indiana is now 2-0. They're in the nation's top 13, and they feature a Syracuse native running back, Stevie Scott, from my alma mater of Christian Brothers Academy. They are hosting Michigan. Does Michigan fall twice and Indiana stays undefeated, or does Indiana take their first loss?
I'm going to go with Indiana this week. I think they're a better football team. The loss for Michigan, that was the upset pick, right?
Yeah.
The thought process for that was, one, the Big Ten had played, right? And they only had a very limited offseason. And Michigan typically has been vulnerable early on in the year. I don't know what it is about their preparation, but they just historically they catch these upsets and weird losses. And I was like, I think they're an upset candidate. And then looking at how they lost, they just they didn't look prepared. Like it was. I think they lost that game more so. Michigan State won. They just, they're a more talented football team. But to the point, I think Indiana in this case is a more talented football team than Michigan. Just in terms of what they do and how they looked in their first 2 games of the season. So I'm going Indiana this week. I don't think Michigan is a top 25 football team this year.
I'm rocking with Indiana as I've been rocking with Indiana. So I picked Indiana in their first week. I picked him in week number 2, and I will pick him again in week 3 at home. Let's go, Stevie Scott. Can't wait to draft you in fantasy football, but before that happens, enjoy your time, sir. And that'll probably be my closest connection, like hometown connection of drafting somebody in fantasy football. And yet another player that didn't feel any love from Syracuse in recruiting, despite the fact that you could literally ride a tricycle from Manly to CBA and get there within maybe 15 minutes. So, insane. But shout out to Indiana and head coach Tom Allen, who knew the talent of Stevie Scott, as well as the fact that Tom Allen recruits HB Plant, which Syracuse also recruited under Schaefer, where Rex Culpepper and Scoop Bradshaw came from down in Tampa. So Tom Allen's doing a heck of a job, and there's a reason why Indiana is relevant. I'm picking Indiana, of course, as well. So, as I had stated, next game that we have up here, Florida, Georgia. Who's going to win at TIAA Bank Field? I'll tell you this, it'll be the best game played in Jacksonville Stadium all year up to this point.
Yeah.
Because the Jaguars are something stanky, and Papa Joe and I will talk about it tomorrow. But the Florida Gators going up against Georgia and in the Jacksonville Stadium of TIAA Bank Field. What do you have for this special rivalry that we get to see every spin around, every time what do they say? Every time the Earth goes around the sun. So what do you have for this?
Yeah, so I like Florida this year. And my reason being is Georgia has lost a couple of guys. I think George Pickens, their top guy, I don't know if you said top guy, but he's one of their better receivers, is out this week alongside, a running back as well. So I think that there are less guys. I'm going to go with Florida this week. I think these teams are pretty close. It's really a toss-up, but I'm going to use the injuries to lead my decision. George had a couple of guys out. I'm going to go with Florida this week.
Yeah, I'm going to pick those Gators, too. I think Georgia is a team and a force to potentially be reckoned with, especially toward the end of the season. But I'm going to lean on the side of Florida in this one and give them a slight edge in this matchup for this weekend and say that Dan Mullen will get back he'll get on the right side of things and figure out a way to get it done here. So I'm gonna lean with Florida in this one. Just 2 more here, Julian. Of course, we'll do Syracuse in a second. Clemson at Notre Dame. Their freshman quarterback is back out there. Trevor Lawrence is not playing. The game is 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on NBC. Who wins, Clemson or Notre Dame?
This is a tough one. I'm curious to know. You go. I want you to go first on this one. I am still struggling with how to pick this, but I'm wondering your reason.
You know what's really awesome is I'm the host, and so you don't get to tell me what to do. But I will. I'm kidding, Julian. You know that I love you, and I want that jersey to be sent out this week. So I got to play nice with you, right? At least for a couple days. So I'm gonna go. I'm really. And all jokes aside, I wanted you to go first because this is a really tough pick for me. So I'm really upset that you got to it. You got to it first by saying that to me. But basically, I underestimated Notre Dame against Pittsburgh because I thought Pittsburgh could give them a little run for their money. And do you hear this, presidential nominees? Do you hear this, most people in politics? I'm admitting that I was wrong a couple weeks ago. Is that a thing? Do we do that? Is that okay? Does the other media do that? Do they retract? I'm just wondering. But I was wrong about Notre Dame against Pittsburgh. So Notre Dame, my apologies. I also know that Clemson is a pain in the tush to play. And Notre Dame hasn't played a ranked team all season. This is their first ranked team they're going to play. It's the only ranked team they're going to play as of right now. Duke was not ranked. USF was not ranked. Florida State was not ranked. Louisville has and hasn't been. They barely beat them 12-7. Pittsburgh has, but was not. Georgia Tech has not been ranked. So has Notre Dame been challenged like a Clemson? No. Are they going to get the full challenge of Clemson without Trevor Lawrence? No. But do I think that Clemson has enough to get over the hump? Potentially. But the game is in South Bend. So this is a really, really, really tough game. Now, granted, Clemson's only played one ranked team this year in Miami, but they embarrassed them, 42-17. I will tell you that in my mind, as hard as it's going to be, and as good as Notre Dame can look, I'm going to lean on the side of Clemson because their backups are better than starters across the nation. And I believe in Dabo Swinney. I believe that he is arguably the best coach in college football currently, including Nick Saban. And I'm going to have to side with Clemson in a very slight edge game that probably, in my opinion, is going to be in the 30s, and the points of separation may be 1 to 3 points. I'm going to take Clemson.
Yeah, I think that Clemson is a better football team across the board, but I don't think that it was a little long name freshman they threw in there the other week. I didn't think he looked all that great last week. And that's the thing. I really want to take Clemson. I think I like the better team. I think they should win. They're obviously the favorite. But I'm going to go ahead and take Notre Dame this week simply off the strength that I didn't think that Clemson's quarterback is ready to play big-time football. My reservations against Notre Dame were simply because every time they play an actual opponent, they seem to lose, and the overrated tag, is verified. But this year, I think they're going to end up getting bailed out because Clemson isn't at full strength. We saw what they looked like last week against BC, and while I do think that the quarterback in his first start played a lot into that, I don't think he's going to get much better between 1 week and the next. So I like Notre Dame in the upset this week, having the home field advantage and a quarterback with no experience in what that Clemson team looked like. So I think it's going to be game of the week, but I'm going to go ahead and take the upset this week with Notre Dame.
That coming from Julian Whigham here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios. This has been your midweek blitz, and Julian, as always, I appreciate it. And now that I have put you on blast about sending the jersey, I hope that it'll be sent out this week. Is there a chance I might get my jersey before we know who the president is?
I would hope so. I would hope so. If this presidency isn't announced, anytime, so that would be quite painful. But yeah, man, we're gonna get that out, and I'm looking forward to the picture of that thing hanging up in studio, man. That thing's gonna be up. We talked about this last week, so I'm excited to be part of the Jersey group in studio, man. So that was a really good group. I'm happy to throw my name up there with it.
That's right, and I'm very excited about it. So, as always, stay safe, Julian. Stay away from the Florida man, and don't become the Florida man, and be good to yourself. And I look forward to truly. I know we talk about it all the time, but I really hope to get down there soon, and that we got some of this. Hopefully, Corona will dial itself down, stay down, and you and I can see each other in a bit.
No doubt, Dan. I appreciate you having me on, and we're going to make it happen one of these days soon, man. So I will. I'm looking forward to it. So.
All right, brother. We'll fight the Florida man together. I'll see you soon. I'll see you soon.
Definitely. Catch you later, man.
All right, take care. That coming from Julian Whigham. If you don't know what the Florida man is, all you need to know and understand is when you look up the stories when they say look up your birthday and a Florida man, and you'll see that, like, you know, something crazy happened with a Florida man, like, on everybody's birthday, which is nuts. For those of you that are watching here on Facebook.com/LiveNowDT, we're going to end this video, start a new one, so stay here on Facebook. We're just starting our fantasy football video.